This with you all for a while, but I wasn't really sure how to go about it. This doesn't really have anything to do with my channel as of now, but it has a lot to do with my life, and I've gotten a lot of questions about it. This is a short story of a big idea becoming reality through hard work, and it's an example of turning lemons into lemonade. This is the story of how my husband and I transformed our property from an overgrown bed of invasive weeds into the start of a food forest and a mega garden that's now producing tons of food for our family, friends, and neighbors year-round. This idea started small, like a seed, and it only grew bigger from there. Before we had huge gardens, rows of grapes, nearly 30 avocado trees, exotic fruits like kiwi and sapote, and mangoes and passion vines, we had this half-acre of very steep and rocky hillside that was overgrown with weeds and landscape plants that had been in place for more than 50 years. We had never dreamed of touching this yard because it just seemed impossible. But everything changed when California went into lockdown and we were spending more time at home and trying to come up with a way to cut through the boredom of it all. I spotted a semi-flat space off the side of our balcony, and I asked my husband if he thought we could turn it into a small fenced yard for our kids. The rest is really history from here. Once we started digging out the yard and building the fences, we then set our sights on the hill just below it. Maybe we could pull out all of that old ivy and put something pretty there. Maybe we could clear out the entire front yard and make it look nice for once. Maybe just 6 fruiting olive trees would look elegant, but then also give us something fun to harvest in the fall. Maybe just a couple of grape plants could go here and give us some Mediterranean vibes. You get the picture. What started as a small home improvement quickly became days and days filled with work and new ideas and project after project after project. We started watching YouTube videos to learn as we went, and somehow we managed to frame and pour cement walls and planter boxes by hand. We dug out and terraced parts of the hillside. We discovered that mangoes grow in Southern California, and that quickly turned into a researching frenzy of what other fun fruits were possible, and that turned into hunting out exotic fruit nurseries all over SoCal and driving hours to hunt them out. We built a gazebo and a deck and trellises and fencing, and we planted dozens and dozens and dozens of fruit trees and food-producing plants alongside medicinal herbs and native flowers. A half-acre doesn't sound huge, but when you are clinging on to the side of a steep hill, trying to pull up weeds and dig out rocks, the space starts to feel a whole lot larger than you once imagined it. A lot of our plants are still getting established, and it will be a few years before the fruit trees behind our house really start to feel like a forest, but here we are, a year later now, and everything is finally starting to come together and feel somewhat finished. So now let me show you around. I will start in the front because, as you know, that's really where this whole project started. After clearing the hillside and laying down extensive weed barriers and mulch, we then poured 5 huge cement planter boxes, 1 heavy bucket at a time, and then set in fruiting olive trees. We surrounded those with tons of lavender to keep the bees happy, and then set in a backdrop of blue agave and butterfly-pleasing lantana. Next came the grapes, and grapes were somewhat of an obsession with us for a while. We stayed up late watching grape growing videos and learning about different varieties and tips for keeping everything organic. We finally settled on a mix of table and wine grapes, and were soon hard at work trellising them across the front yard. The finishing touches on our ode to Greece here were 2 pomegranate trees. We later came back and interspersed some citrus trees as well, including a sweet lime, which I'd never tried until we had this tree. Sweet limes taste just like the name sounds. They are limes that are sweet enough to eat like an orange. It's as if someone turned a limeade back into a fruit and then stuck it on a tree. They have such an interesting flavor, and I don't know why we don't see more of them in the grocery store. As we made our way back up the hill near our home, we planted 2 passion vines, and these have really taken off. They are now in need of even more space as they have filled every inch of wire and trellis that we've made available to them, and they're currently loaded with fruits. Passion vines are super easy to grow as long as you're in the right zone for them. They don't require food and in fact will produce more fruit in poorer soil. We also slapped a big garden bed up here in the empty space for growing greens like kale and rainbow chard. These are things we eat a lot of, so it's nice to not have to go to the grocery store for them. I also snuck in a gooseberry plant up here, not thinking much of it, but it has since filled the entire end of the garden bed and has been loaded with delicious gooseberries for months now. Here in the front yard, we put a Habotikaba tree. This is a tree from Brazil, and some people call it Brazilian grape tree. Ours is still young, but soon it will flower and grow fruit right off the bark like this. Isn't that neat? These little grapes basically spring right out of the tree itself, and you can walk by and pluck them off at your leisure. Now, up on the hillside behind the house is where the magic really started to happen. This is the steepest and most untamable part of our property. It doesn't look like much yet, but it is where the majority of the work has gone in, and it continues to go. Up here, we have 5 luscious mango trees, which gave us 1 fruit last year that we all gathered around and ate together. We have about 10 banana varieties, including ice cream, Grand Nain, and manzanita. We have a guamachil tree, which is a South American fruit tree that makes these juicy seed pods. You eat them kind of like a tamarind, but they have a much different texture. My favorite fruit tree that we have put in is the Pakistan mulberry tree. We have a white and a black variety. They are both delicious with some minor distinctions in the flavor. I think the Pakistan variety are quite possibly the most tasty mulberries on the planet. They grow super long and they basically taste like sugar. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like a stick of sugar with almost a hint of grape flavor. Think like the grape Kool-Aid we used to make at home when we were kids. That's what these remind me of. It's as if someone took that magic from my childhood and they turned it into a healthy fruit and then somehow made it grow in my backyard. Another reason I love these trees is because getting them up here was such an ordeal. These things are huge and heavy, and it took every bit of strength that we had plus some hired help to lug them up onto this hillside. We did have some failures here though, like the jackfruit tree that did in fact not like all of the shaking that went on between the ride from the nursery, the lugging up the hill, and the planting. It died within a few months of being placed in the yard. And the same thing can be said about our star fruit. While we can grow a lot of things here, there are some tropical species that just don't like our harsh winds and dry soil and cooler nights, no matter how much we want them to. But luckily avocados do seem to like those things, and we've had some of the best luck planting and growing them here. My husband really got obsessed with hunting out rare avocado varieties, and I couldn't complain because we do eat a lot of avocados and they are such beautiful trees. As of now, we have Hass, Lamb Hass, Zutano, Nabal, Holiday, Bacon, Fuerte, and Mexicola, to name a few. But like I mentioned, we have over 20 trees now. I don't think you want me to list all of them, but I think this has gotten long enough for an introduction to the garden and a garden tour. I know I promised this over a year ago, so please forgive me for taking so long. This truly was a labor of love, and it helped us, to quote a psalm here, to turn our mourning into dancing during what was an otherwise really tough and lonely year. Having this constant reminder of the beautiful things that God has given us in the world really helps to deflect our attention away from the negative that's swirling all around. I would say that if you are struggling with fear or depression in these lonely times, you might just be able to find the remedy in the dirt. Happy gardening, everyone. And if you want to see more of our garden or learn more about the process, just let me know in the comments below, and I will try to get it out to you in less than a year. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, everybody.
Look ahead, the sea is calm, and I know we've been through a lot, but just wait. Wait for better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails.